Are you sure?
Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never ask a bride why she's getting married. Don't wear a skirt on a windy day. Deodorant is not a shower. Don't sniff chili flakes. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Our longest election campaign, except 1951, which went into 1952, but that was the first one. So our longest election campaign has just ended as temperatures teased the 50-degree mark. It's time to list our 10 takeaways from it. Number 1. The first is the number of media interviews the Prime Minister gave across publications this time. Some followers claim in 3 figures, but definitely upwards of 80. But there were lots of interviews also given on the side. For an establishment so wary, even contemptuous of the media, it's a lot. Important takeaway is this, that no headlines emerged out of any of these interviews. A possible exception is the interview with Rubika Liaquat of News 18, in which he said that if he indulged in Hindu-Muslim rhetoric, he'd be unworthy of public life. The second point now, if the first highlight is how much Modi spoke to the media, the second is how little Rahul Gandhi did. He did not give any interviews. He spoke at short press conferences but left direct communication with the media to sister Priyanka, if at all. The important political highlight, partly owed to this, is that it's the first election campaign where Rahul Gandhi wasn't seen to have made a gaffe. He gave his opposition nothing meme-worthy. The third point, the headlines in this election campaign emerged almost entirely from the Prime Minister's speeches. The first thing this tells us is that this was a one-candidate election. The BJP wanted all the votes for candidate Modi. The only candidate the opposition wanted defeated was Modi. It was that kind of election. And that is what's underlined by the fact that most of the headlines in this election came out of the Prime Minister's speeches. It followed, therefore, that anything he said became news. It could be Kachatibu, Mangal Sutra, Ghuspetia, Kartarpur Sahib and Indira Gandhi with the 1971 prisoners of war, or workers from the Hindi heartland, Sanatan Dharm, facing insults in the southern states. If you researched headlines that set the agenda in this election, face by face, 18 out of 20, at least 18 out of 20, the 20 top headlines came out from the Prime Minister's speeches. None from his interviews. With him, everything, as we know, is a set piece. So please do not overinterpret this, because if you might say that the interviews were preset, they were set piece interviews with pre-planned questions, pre-planned answers. Remember also that all his speeches also are never off the cuff and never extempore. Those are also very well planned. So he only says what he wants to say, and he only conveys to an audience what he wants that audience to hear. Following from this third point is the absence of an overarching BJP pitch. In 2014, it was the UPA 2 scams and the promise of Achhe Din, or better times. There was also an assertion of muscularity in foreign policy, especially towards the Chinese. The 3-point proposition, therefore, was economic reform, that's one, massive economic reform, and number 2, ending corruption, and third, a 56-inch chest, 56-inch ki chhati approach to national security. In 2019, national security defined the campaign because that was post Pulwama and Balakot. This time, there was no one theme to define the frontrunners campaign. That's something we've written about in an earlier national interest, of which I will share a link with you in this description. On the economy, growth, or jobs, or just improving quality of life, all smart politicians know it's perilous to seek votes on past performance, as Atal Bihari Vajpayee and L.K. Advani learned in 2004. If 2014 and 2019 were respectively Achhe Din and national security elections, how should we remember 2024? It was a Modi election, a Modi-Tina. There is no alternative election. In the process, the party manifesto was forgotten, the BJP manifesto was forgotten, subsumed by Modi ki guarantee. Even when Modi and BJP spoke of a manifesto, it was almost always about the Congress party's manifesto. Which brings us to the fifth point. Changed geopolitics hung heavy on this campaign for the BJP. It moderated the discourse on national security. It was brought in here and there, as in the Prime Minister comparing his predecessor's dossiers on terrorists to Pakistan with his own "Ghus ke marenge," that is, killing terrorists in enemy territory approach. This rocket was launched, but it did not have the fuel to last even into its second stage in the 2024 campaign. Why? Because this rocket, this 3-stage, 4-stage, whatever you call it, rocket had been launched quite successfully in 2019. This rocket did not even have the fuel in 2024 to last even into its second stage. Why? The main reason is it had already been used in 2019. There are two further reasons for this. One, that no such notable action had been carried out or necessitated in the past 5 years. And second, the international mess over the Nijar Pannu affair made it that much tougher to claim any of that as an achievement or any of that as a part of "Ghus ke marenge" approach. If anything, it dimmed the afterglow of the G20, particularly with the US President Joe Biden not coming for Republic Day and the plan of an impromptu Quad summit around that time not working out. Changed geopolitics also brought in new limitations. Remember the 4-year Chinese dharna in eastern Ladakh with increased activity across the entire line of actual control? Muscular foreign policy responses weren't available, therefore, in this campaign. Next point, if the BJP failed to find a theme, except if not Modi, who? The opposition also struggled for cohesion. It was wary of fighting a Modi versus who fight. It wanted to fight Modi, it was fighting Modi, it wanted a vote against Modi, but it was wary of letting it become a Modi versus who fight. That would be tricky. Since Modi was the target, however, and there was so much by way of his speeches and interviews to mine, the opposition conjured up hundreds of memes and short clips that spread fast. If social media virality counted in any election, the opposition won it this time. I'm joking, of course. Beyond this, the parties, especially those in the India bloc, tried breaking this into many local or regional elections. It was easier for the regional party, say for DMK in Tamil Nadu or for TMC in West Bengal, but it had its limitations in the big seat-rich states like, say, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, so on and so forth. Next point now on one issue. On one issue, the opposition was quick to its feet and landed an early punch. The initial BJP slogan or boast of 400 par or tally above 400 was immediately read as a threat to alter the constitution and take away what's non-negotiable for many sections of voters, many of those who worry about individual freedoms and institutions, and especially for a very large, politically crucial demographic, the fear of losing reservations. This threw the BJP back and the party stopped repeating that boast. Collaterally, for the first time since 1977, that was the end of the emergency, for the first time since 1977, it turned the sanctity of the constitution into an issue. And yet, coming to the next point, the opposition could not make institutional capture and individual liberties into an abiding theme in this campaign. Invoking the emergency, it ran into three challenges. One, the emergency was promulgated by the Congress, and not just the Congress, but by the most well-known, most familiar name from the Nehru-Gandhi dynasty today, Indira Gandhi. Second, a majority of the voters today were born after 1977 and have no memory of the emergency. And third, the emergency was a mass atrocity that crores suffered, particularly in the Hindi heartland. Today, the denial of freedoms, the use of the agencies is limited to select elites from opposition leaders to civil society and the media. That's why it did not turn into mass anger. Which brings us to point number 9 now. While the campaign was almost entirely about Modi, the BJP also saw the rise of another key campaigner in Amit Shah. He addressed 188 rallies, at least that's what a story in the Times of India told us. We'll share a link with you. He addressed 188 rallies across the country, was a good magnet for the faithful, for the party faithful, and prolifically made headlines. We had noted his rise as a dominant BJP figure in a 2017 national interest headlined Rise of the Party Commissar, of which I will share a link both to the text article and the video with you with the description of this video. While that remains, he does remain the most important party commissar. While that remains, this election marked his stepping beyond the back room. The use of the expression stepping beyond rather than stepping out is deliberate. It signifies that he hasn't left the back room, where he is such an important and powerful figure for the BJP. It's a bit like a batter batting on the front foot now, but keeping his back foot planted firmly behind the crease. So that space behind the crease is where he's been working all this while as the party's chief commissar. Now, of course, this election, however, has also been his coming out party of sorts. He's been the second most powerful figure in the BJP since 2013. Now, he's also the party's second most visible. And finally, point number 10, and finally a rant. A rant that is principled, professional and personal. Did this election really have to go on for 44 days? Check out this graphic on your screen and the data I'm going to read out to you. The 1996 election lasted all of 11 days. The next, 1998, took 20 days. And then 1999 stretched over 28 days. It moderated a bit to 21 in 2004 but has been rising since, going up to 28 again in 2009, 36 in 2014, 39 in 2019 and now 44 days. It's a painful paradox. On the one hand, connectivity, communication have improved dramatically and we rightly boast to the world about our super efficient electronic voting machines EVM system, the end of booth capturing, and also with every election, fewer and fewer booths go for repolls. That means our elections have become a lot more scientific, a lot more efficient and really very clean. And yet, our campaign season is getting longer. That's a paradox. I know it will be said that the Election Commission did this to enable Modi to reach more parts of the country as he is his party's sole messenger. As our numbers show, however, the campaign season has been lengthening since 1996. That's from way before Modi. It beats me why the EC would continue doing this unless it wants to catch up with a full IPL season of 61 days. We wait for 2029.